the volume, pump up the volume. You say
Redeemer full of culture, y'all.
check this out.
Hey, welcome to Ghetto Gallery.
We're on Phillip Lane in Enmore in Sydney's inner west.
We're going to take a look at some of the pieces up here. I'm going to touch a little bit about the aerosol history.
And we're also going to take a look at a guerrilla garden.
Cool. So we're going to start with this piece right here. And it is an awesome example of the graffiti in the 80s. The reason why is this can right here. Also the fact it's really flat, two-dimensional. The black key line, and also this cloud. It is also very easy to read. If you take a look, we've got the S, the C, the R. We've got an A here, and the M. There's a few things about it that isn't really done today anymore, and one of those is the wrapping of the text with just some random lines. Also these stars and spirals. And there's also another one we're going to take a look at, just down there. This piece is also a good example of the 80s because of the starbursts and also the bleeding down of the piece here, the way it's sort of melting a bit. This piece actually spells out P, that could be an A or an E, and there's a nice big P here and an I right there. If we look over here, Peppy 172, and you can see the 172. This piece is a great example of the late 80s to 90s. It starts moving away from legibility back in those days and went into more of style. This is actually known as wild style, and that's because of the arrows moving around, and it's kind of a good reflection of hip hop with the movement of it, and also the style, just plain up style. It's actually quite easy to read if you take a look. We've got an S, we've got a K, we've got an O, an R, and the E, score. It's a great example of a wild style piece.
Right here we have a guerrilla garden, and if you've not heard of those before, it's when locals come in and actually build a garden up in the public space. You usually find them in more rundown and neglected areas, and the reasons that people do that is, first of all, could be a political action about land rights and reform. Also is for sustainability, for growing your own food, herbs and vegetables. When they do that, it's great because it's free to everyone. It educates the community on how they can grow their own food. But also when they build these things, anybody can come up and access it. So it's a great way to make an area look really lively and beautiful. Guerrilla gardening is a little bit similar to graffiti in terms of how to get the job done. Gardeners often have to come out in secretive night missions to do their work. That's because there's issues to do with land ownership and possibly trespassing on someone's property. A lot of the land that you find guerrilla gardens on is either council owned or privately owned. Guerrilla gardening started in the 1970s in New York, so it's not exactly a new form. It is growing in Australia, more prominent in Melbourne than it is in Sydney. However, one of the best guerrilla gardens I've come across in Sydney is in Chippendale. So if you walk the back streets of Chippendale, you'll find there's a whole lot of herbs and vegetables and native plants growing on the sidewalks. It's also known as verge gardens, and the community and the local councils really embraced it. It's an excellent way to see the streets become more beautiful. It promotes sustainability and, of course, free food for everyone. And it's really something I'd love to see more of in Sydney.
I just had to talk about this piece. I really like it. It's really crafty, and I'm going to tell you why. For one, we have exclamation points on this end and this end, kind of framing it, which is really cool. Also, flipping the exclamation point to an I. The other thing as well is the C is actually closed. You don't even see that that's actually a C, but the intersection of the other letter makes it into a C. The R as well comes through here and then cuts back in, and the I almost frames the R. Again with a nice rounded C, but also the arrow balancing it out right dead center. And if you look over here, we've got the H, which also has the play of the C, which kind of closes off into a nice, neat H. And back again to the E with the rounds on both ends, which is such a great piece. And also the white kind of standing out. For me, it kind of brings out that indigenous sort of colour, like Aboriginal artwork, which is what I really love about it. Very Australian. This is done by the Sydney Kids Bombing. It's a really good piece. This is what graffiti is all about to me. It is big, it is bright, it's full of style. There is stuff going on everywhere. Your eye doesn't even know where to stop. We've got our tags here giving us some hints of what it might read, but I'm not even 100% it is. One of the things I want to point out here is the character up the top here. We've got Mickey Mouse. The thing that is, for me, the way that graffiti mimics real life is that advertising. It's all about advertising. You have your big blocks of letters and you have your character or your person selling it. Like any billboard you look at will always have the logo and somebody going, yay, it's good, or buy me, or look how cool I am, something like that. And that's what this is all about. It's promoting oneself, it's making it bigger than it actually is.
We've come to the end of our episode in Phillip Lane, Enmore.
There is a lot of great pieces that we haven't shown. Pieces from Puddle, from Tees. I do recommend coming down if you're in Sydney.
And if you want to find out more information about guerrilla gardening, just follow the links on our YouTube channel. So we'll see you next time.